All right. So welcome to Lead 400. Here's our team. I'm Dave Levy. This is Lieutenant Colonel Matt Orlowski and Lieutenant Colonel Dave Houston. So we're kind of excited to be here. You're excited to be firsties, I hope. What is it, 9 months in the wake up, or is that about it? Something around that. So yeah, that's easy. So you're kind of excited to be firsties. We're kind of excited to be doing Lead 400, but I'm going to tell you that it's been a long journey to get here to Lead 400 in H1 today. And I'm going to share a little bit about that experience in getting here today. And I want you to be excited about what we're doing. And that's why I'm going to share this little journey with you. So it started, at least for me, probably, I'm thinking like a year and a half ago. So it was a long time ago. I was sitting in my office. My boss calls me up, our department head, says, David, can you come over for a second? I'm like, yeah, sure, boss. And it's one of those moments where you remember the day, right? It's one of these kind of primal, life-changing moments. So I remember going up towards my boss's office. He came outside of his office, stood there and said, Dave, just got out of a meeting today, and it looks like management department is taking over Lead 400. And you're doing it for us. And I just kind of, deer in headlights, look of shock and probably a little bit of horror. I just stood there waiting for my reason on why I can't do it. And then all of a sudden he said, and before you say anything, it's not negotiable. So that was the beginning of my Leadership 400 journey. And so after that, I started putting together a team and we started brainstorming ideas, because what I really wanted to have happen, and I've been here a long time, I really wanted to make sure you all had a great experience. So I started thinking, brainstorming with our team, well, how do we go about doing that? And so we came up with a whole bunch of different ideas, and some of them, in looking back, were like really horrible ideas. So I'll tell you our first idea. First idea, I said, you know what? And we had all kinds of manning constraints as well. So there's manning constraints and there's time constraints. You guys have pretty busy schedules, as you know. So everything is difficult. So we had to work within your constraints. So the first thing we started thinking about is like, all right, so we'll brainstorm 10 topics that we think would be like critically important for you to know, regarding leadership. So we would find those topics, and then, we would form them into a lecture. And so what we would do is have 1,000 people show up at Arnold Hall around 7:30 at night and would listen to me giving a lecture on leadership. Right? And so I started, you know where it was going, but somehow in my mind, that was a good idea. But I was smart enough to go around and ask people what they thought of that idea. And then people started looking at me and saying, well, Dave, your plan is to go speak to 1,000 people, mostly non-management majors in the evening, when honestly, you can't capture the attention of 20 management majors for 15 minutes on your own. So you think that's a good idea? So I scratched my head and said, yeah, we need a plan B. So our plan B, honestly, wasn't tremendously better. I was going to recruit people that I thought would have good platform skills, and then they would do the lesson for me. So I would write the lesson, and same thing, you'd walk over 7:30 at night, over Arnold Hall, and listen to someone lecture you. And then, after it was over, you would write a paper on it. 10 papers, one from everyone, and that would be Lead 400. We only have 10 lessons. And so I started socializing that idea, asking cadets in my class, and I couldn't find anyone that liked that idea, right? So I said, all right, what can we do now? And then you ever have one of those 2 a.m. moments where you just kind of wake up and you just have a great idea? Or am I just weird? Yeah, so some of you have had those great ideas. So I had one. 2 a.m., I popped out of bed and said, I have the solution. And I absolutely love it. We're going to do skits. Have you seen like The Office? You know what I'm talking about, The Office, right? So what we're going to do, I said, you know what? We're going to write scripts that are kind of like funny and edgy and are just jam-packed with academic content. And then we're going to have cadets. We're going to recruit cadets to play out these skits, and we'll record them, and then you would watch it. And so I said it's the perfect idea because, you know, I'm kind of creative, I'm a great writer, and I have the ability to like recruit cadets, right? I can give them academic credit for being in these skits. And so I started, you know, socializing that. And well, first off, you know, I created a Google Doc, started writing the script. And all of a sudden I realized I'm not a great writer. And the scripts, when I looked at them, they kind of sucked. So that was the first problem. Then I'm actively recruiting cadets to kind of take part in it. How many cadets do you think I recruited? Even when I said, you know what, I can pretty much guarantee you an A. Too many, 0. Yeah, I couldn't recruit anyone. I tried to strong arm a couple people into it, and I said, you know what, think about it, talk to a couple more people and all that, and if you still think it's a horrible idea, let me know and I'll let you out of it. And they waited about an hour and came back and said, yeah, we don't need to talk to anyone. It's a horrible idea. So, yeah, we stopped there. And so, you know, we kept coming, and I was kind of stuck for a while and really didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden, I think I had like a real moment where I figured out what we've been missing. Because all along, even though when I, you know, in my weird mind, I was thinking that I was doing the good thing, that this was all going to be good when everyone around me is telling me it's bad. But even when that was happening, I realized that something was missing. And all of a sudden, and I should know better, but I didn't. But here's what the problem was. In all of these like really poor designs, you know, admittedly poor designs, the emphasis was all about like me and the content, right? I mean, that's what it was all going to be. But what the realization was you have been completely immersed in this, you know, what is it, leadership laboratory, right? For over 3 years now, fully immersed. You're waking up into it. Every day is something new. I'm going into my 18th year here, and I had 4 years as a cadet. So I've literally had thousands of conversations with cadets. And it turns out you're all amazing. You may be amazing in different ways. Some people are amazing academics, some people are amazing athletes, right? Some are like running clubs. I mean, everyone has got a story. And even though, you know, some stories are more recognizable than others, every single person has a story. And I can't tell you how many times someone's in my office and maybe we're getting ready to go to an arc or something, you know, which are not like amazingly good stories all the time. But all of a sudden we're talking about, I'm like, all right, so what are you going to tell this arc on why they should keep you? And let's talk about, well, I've been really busy doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, you know what? I had no idea you were doing that. That's a really compelling story. So all of a sudden we completely refocused and reshifted and said, at this stage in where you are at the academy as firsties, this ought to be 100% about you. Can't be about anything else. So we put together what we think, at least in my mind, is kind of a somewhat exciting course. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic because you heard my other great ideas, right? So I shared with you that because I think I'm going to share with you the idea that I think you're going to find value in. So next slide, please. So here's what we're going to do. So we're meeting in person today, and I'm basically talking about what we're doing. So we're only meeting twice. So we're meeting physically once today, and then the final lesson, we're going to have a wrap up where we come in and we're going to share some of what you've shared with us to the whole group. And in the rest of the time, the other 8 lessons are all going to be in an online engagement. And it's kind of weird. It's a different mentality for us, right? Where we don't take online courses. Hey, have you taken them in high school? Anyone? No? Few of you? Yeah, so it will be different. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to, the idea is to validate the experiences you've had here, give that voice, and give you things to kind of reflect on. So for example, the first one, this is the whole course, most profound leadership experience, that's available now. But what we're asking you to do, and I'm going to share the example of what I kind of mean by that. And so I was talking to another faculty member, and he gave me permission to use his story and even his name. But this is kind of the example of where we're going at. So we're asking you, and there's no maximum limit, no minimum limit. We just want for you to share your experience with us. So his experience, well, he's a major, but what he shared was, he goes, that would be fantastic from my perspective, because when I was a cadet, he said, I was lucky enough to be selected to be the captain of the football team. And he said, there was, right when I became captain, we were having some issues on our team, and we decided, I got my senior kind of team staff together, and we were looking at, changing some policies around. And I decided to implement a policy of, while we're in season, no alcohol, period. And he goes, and I knew that was a more stringent policy than the Air Force Academy has. And they started saying, he said, I don't drink. And I had to do some soul searching and say, by creating this policy, am I imposing my values on others, or is it really good for the team, right? So he started telling me, he was talking for hours about, grappling with all these things, right? So, and ultimately decided he was going to impose that policy. Well, about a week after the policy was imposed, all of a sudden some people from the team came to him and said, got to tell you something. 2 days after that policy, there was a party, a bunch of ball players were there, and they were all drinking. He was like, crap, what do I do? And so he was like doing again, he was reaching out to mentors and all, just about anyone he can talk to that would listen. He's saying, I'm grappling with a problem. We've imposed a policy on our team that's more stringent than the institution. Should we do that, make a decision on our own, or should we get the coaches involved? What are we doing? And so he said, he found out Monday, it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every day he was just spending, essentially he would go to class, go to practice, and then the rest of the time until TAPS, he's 100% working and grappling with this issue. And he comes back to his squadron Friday afternoon, I guess after practice, his AOC happened to be there. And his AOC said, hey, I'm glad I caught you. I just want to give you some feedback, come into my office for a second. And so he goes in his office, says, yes, sir. He goes, yeah, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I just calculated everyone's MPAs in the squadron, and you're dead last. And he said he just kind of stood there like in shock, right? And the way he described it to me is he has not had as significant of a leadership experience since, he had become a junior major. It took until being a junior major before he had that equivalent, and now he was just dropped to the lowest MPA in the squadron. And so what I want to do for you is validate everything you've got. Now, not everyone is going to have that, same experience, right? That was unique. But my guess is every one of you have done something, right? Whether it's doing something in basic cadet training. If I was to look back to my cadet years, I wasn't like an awesome cadet, but the one time when I kind of stepped it up was working second beast. I wasn't like a super high position. It was like a flight commander or something. And I got a lot out of it. For me, it was my most profound experience here. Others, it may have been setting up a club of some kind. It may be you're an astro major and it had something to do with like a design project. And it was only like 3 or 4 people, and yet you had to kind of lead this, and it was going in the bad direction, and you turned it around. And so I want to capture 1,000 of those experiences, right? So we're starting with you all, group 1, and so we want you to, we're not imposing minimums and maximum lengths, but we want to be able to understand fully that experience you had and why it's been profound. And no kidding, I'm kind of an activist. I hope to take all these experiences, or I actually promise you I will, and share them to the permanent party and say, you know what? Maybe our model needs to change. Maybe we do need to start giving rank for different club sports, right? I mean, having jobs associated or rank associated with the leadership that's actually occurring throughout the wing on any given day. And this would be our first kind of baseline of capturing that data. So help us help you. And one way of looking at it is, I want you to think about as you're like typing these things up, don't just pop open, Blackboard and just, we do want you to type it into a Word document first in case something goes crazy with Blackboard and cut and paste it. But, we want you to kind of think about it. Just don't do it to get it done. I want you to help us so that we can share this with everyone, right? And so give it some thought, reflect on it, type it in, and then this is where the engagement comes in. I promise you, we're all gonna read every one of these things, right? So you're gonna do that. We're not meeting formally in class. So the engagement's gonna be one, so I think I'm doing squadrons 2 through, what am I doing now? So Colonel Houston's doing 1 and 2, and then I guess I'm doing 3 through 7, 3 through 5. I can't do math. Yeah, psych major, now management department. But so we're not all 3 of us going to read every one. I'm going to read, my squadrons, and what I'm going to do is look at that, experience, and then I'm going to think about it, and then I'm going to offer you like kind of follow-up questions. It's like, man, that was an awesome experience. That I wish I had something like that. Hey, how do you think that may have changed if, and maybe just tweak the scenario a little bit to make you think about it, either in a bigger way at like the organizational level or just a different way. And then you kind of, respond back to that. And that's for points. So the whole course is just a series of these kinds of online engagements. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so I personally fully expect everyone to get all the points, right? Turn it in. And, this is your experience. So, help us help you. The next thing, so that's, the profound leadership experience. Then the next thing is a complexity exercise. And that's pretty straightforward too. So there's a list, right? So I'm kind of nerdy, looked at all kinds of meta-analysis for leadership. And I think I put in like 40 different things that academic literature has found to be really important for leaders to do. And so your task is to go through this whole list, and I want like the top 5, or maybe it was top 3. I can't remember what I wrote, but I just added that whole list. I want you to pick the 3 that are the most important for you, and then reflect on it and tell me why. Simple as that, right? But give it some thought. Same thing, some deeper reflection. Why out of all this list, those 3 things or 5 things are the most important? And then same thing, we're going to go in and look at what you wrote and then give you a 0 and ask you to, no. So we're going to look at that, just seeing if anyone was listening. And we're going to look at that, and then based on what you respond there, we're going to offer up other things to think about that maybe you hadn't, and then you just type in, another response to that. So that's the second main thing. And then the next one I'm actually really excited about. So this, there's there's kind of a new, well, it's a really old theory, and I'm not going to burden you with it, but basically, in order for human beings to experience subjective well-being, just in order to feel good about themselves on any given day, we need three things. We need to feel that we have autonomy, which autonomy is like a fancy word for freedom, right? Have control over what we do, our time in our lives. So we need that. Now, of course, you get tons of that here, right? Now, but we don't know. I don't know. So you need autonomy. You need to feel that you're competent. And again, this is psychological, right? You could actually be amazing in math, but psychologically, you don't feel like you have confidence with math, and so you don't think you're that great. Does that make sense? So you can actually be better, but psychologically you don't feel it. So you need this psychological feeling of competence. And then finally, the thing that we need in order to feel good as a human being, in order to thrive, to maximize one's potential, you need to have relatedness with others, like kind of deep connections with other human beings. So the task for this assignment is there's a scale out there, real simple. I think it's like 20 questions. You just fill out the scale. It'll score you right on a scale of 1 through 5. You answer all these questions, and then it'll give you a score. And then we're asking you to kind of discuss your score and how it feels. And then we'll do a follow-up on, okay, so now you're the captain or the lieutenant. What do you think you can do in your squadrons or organizations or wherever you are when you graduate to increase the amounts of these things in your organization? Does that make sense? Fairly straightforward, but if you're a leader and if you're my boss, I want to be able to thrive. And it's a two-way street. I've got to own part of it, but the organization needs to own part of it too. And so this part is reflecting on what the organization can do to help you thrive. And then finally, so this based on everything you've experienced in the 4 years here, or 3 and 1/2 a semester here, it's, all right, this is who I think I am on leadership. We can use philosophy. I don't like that term. It's just your approach. And why I kind of like this assignment is because, again, I'm kind of nerdy. I read all the time. It pops up on my Google News feed, Jeff Bezos on. So Jeff, you all know Jeff Bezos, right? Amazon, richest man on the planet. But he's a phenomenally good architect of systems. So he creates decision-making processes that work. He creates policies that drive performance. So on every level, he knows how to run a meeting in a way that delivers results. And so I read all these things today. I'm like, man, that's really good. On one level, it's common sense, but man, I hadn't really thought about that. So this is the part where you get to kind of reflect on how you will make decisions, how you're going to interact. And again, we're going to give you almost no guidance on that. Completely open. I don't want to prime you in any way. I just want to hear your thoughts. But I want to hear your kind of reflective thoughts, right? I don't want you to just hop in there real quick to get it done. I want this in my end game, again, for all of this, 100% of this, is be able to share, not with your names, obviously scan all that out, but share like the composite results with permanent party so we can have a baseline for making this place better and giving you all, not you all, the people behind you, right? When you come back as faculty, a great experience while you're here. So that is the gist of this whole course. Now, on one level, I feel pretty good and excited. I do think, we did our best to put, with all our constraints, to put together something that I think you'll find value in, that's very doable, but we certainly need your help. And you are our first group out the chute, right? So, if you want, you can, are our numbers on? So here's what I'll say. So I am absolutely 100% committed to creating the best course possible. So if all of a sudden you're sitting there saying, wow, yeah, I'm not happy. I don't like this at all. I'm kind of pissed off now. So you can go to Yodel and say, wow, Levy's completely oblivious and he's doing 400 and he can't even tie his shoes, right? You can do that, but you could also, my cell phone is in the syllabus, text me because I can't make it better unless I know about it. And I really am absolutely committed to making it better. So what we're doing, and I'm going to pass it on to, we have our fun sponge, right? So we have a fun sponge that's going to talk logistics, the kind of the stuff that gets us through so we all have a good experience here. But the one thing I will say is we will have plenty of time, allocated, even though we're not using the M5 periods to formally meet. You can come for EI if you want to chat. We're available via text, right? 719-694-4246 is my number, but it's on the syllabus. I will answer all texts. I won't answer them if it's late at night. I'll answer them the next day. But I absolutely want to hear from you if you have any problems whatsoever. It would also be, I wouldn't mind hearing positive things too. I'm not adverse to positive feedback, but absolutely, I want to take care of any negative things that happen because all three of us are committed for you having a great experience. All right, so we'll open it up for questions after we give it to Colonel Orlowski. I call them the fun sponge. This is the stuff that's absolutely critically important because it's about deadlines and how we kind of work and when you do things and all that. So over to you, Colonel Orlowski.
And
oh, that was nice. Thank you.
Some of the good feedback you were after. So I'm actually an experienced fun sucker. That's my role at the house with my wife and the kids. Hey, hon, it's time for us to go home. Hey, it's time to go to bed. Hey, we can't afford that. So this is an experience thing, but I have to admit, I'm equally excited, just like Dr. Levy, about the assignments that we have. And through the course of this journey, I've been caught up and went there. So has anyone ever watched on Amazon Man in the High Castle? At one point, I started writing a script, and I was like, we could do Dean in the High Castle, and we could have all these things, and there's an alternate universe where the Air Force Academy never came about. But again, bad ideas. So we're on in here really to focus on you. So as I pass on these parts, I do want to share what our department shared with Dr. Levy. These are the things that are non-negotiable. Just like any class, there are things that we have to have done. So the slide before that you saw the list of assignments, that is a screenshot of what is on the syllabus. There just to make it easy for you, literally, so you can say, check that one off, done, good, ready to go. So there are those series of assignments that you need to complete. All assignments are required for course completion, for, of course, a graduation requirement. There is a late policy that's listed in the syllabus. It's very simply, if it's not there by the date that was listed on the previous slide, you get an automatic 10%, and for every hour thereafter, you're going to lose 1%. However, again, these aren't overly onerous assignments. Please just get them in on time. Even if it goes all the way down to 0, we need you to turn it in because, again, these are graduation requirements. We do understand that you are busy people doing the amazing things out and about, whether it's for academics or athletics or squadron leadership events. What we understand is that if you're going to be out and you're going to miss an assignment because you have something, reach out to your instructor and make sure that you let us know, schedule your missed work as soon as you get back, that first assignment back. We expect that you'll do that within the first 4 business days of ultimately being back in. So just to kind of orient you, some of you I know have logged on and already went into Blackboard. This is what you'll see. So the biggest thing, if all else fails, and if you remember nothing from this from our time together, simply remember, get started here. You'll see in this top left-hand corner, I've kind of lost myself. Get started here takes you to the main screen, and it has all of your assignments on. If you go ahead and you scroll down, you are going to see all these different assignments as you work through. The module 1, like we just talked about, your most profound leadership experience is there. The syllabus, which we've referenced, has our cell phones contact information, so you can reach out to us and share that positive and negative feedback. Again, we are very open to adjusting the course and making it a great experience for you. That's where you can get that contact information. As you go through the different assignments, you'll see the different screens. The first assignment, the profound leadership experience, is here. What we've done is we've carved out with your M5 time a time and a space to do something, your leadership development. Okay? So that is what this first time is, allowing you to go ahead and focus on that. However, it is due at 2300, 2 lessons later. So these are the dates that were reflected on that list that Dr. Levy showed to you. You'll also notice that each assignment does not reveal until, one, you submit it, and the 400 team gives you feedback to prompt you onto learning more about that experience that you have and how can we extrapolate that in a larger organizational context. The future modules also get released as you continue to build forward. One thing that we just wanted to go ahead and highlight as we work through the administrative policies are honor and human relations policies. Good organizations ultimately use these as touchstones, and we don't want to step away from that. But if there's ever a point where you think, hey, I just want to copy my buddy's leadership experience, one, we want to know about you, but before you ever do that, come see us. There's no reason to go ahead and never cheat on these sorts of things. Again, these are organizational touchstones that we want to go ahead and make sure that we have. A couple things that we want to go ahead and just end on are, if you remember nothing else, make sure to go back to start here. It'll reorient you where you are in the Blackboard. This shows you where the next assignments are and where you can ultimately go from there. As Dr. Levy reminded you, sometimes, and you may have done this on previous Blackboard assignments, I urge you go ahead and keep your running list of assignments in a Word document and cut and paste them in there, because I've had experience on Blackboard where, hey, I submitted it and it was gone and it just didn't come through. To save you that extra work, I urge you just to go ahead and create a master document as precaution. Your career choices, I understand just from talking just to different advisees, this is a little bit off topic, but I wanted to offer this. I've had a 20-year career as a personnel guy. So I started out in services. We eventually went into personnel. That's now an elite career field that you're allowed to rejoin, and I'm not here to sell that one career field to you. But as I advised my fellow commanders on what they were doing in their squadrons, I learned a whole lot about different career fields. And I would like to offer that as you guys think through, hey, when I have to submit my next AFSCs, was it open up next Friday? I heard it's pretty soon. So when that opens up, if you have questions about different career fields, by no means am I saying I'm the only source for this. I'm sure that you have other mentors, but please consider me a resource if you want to know about my experience dealing with different career fields and how those done. Again, because of my personnel background, I've dealt with most career fields and kind of understand that. The last thing I just want to go ahead and remind you of on the next time that you have on your calendar is AOC time, M3. That is time that is allotted for you to go ahead and start these reflections. As Dr. Levy mentioned, hopefully we planted a seed. You can go ahead and start thinking about what your profound leadership experiences are. Because this is important, we created time and space for you to go ahead and work on that. However, it's not due until 16 August at 2300, okay? Dr. Levy, do you have any other thoughts?
Awesome. No. So help us make this a great experience. That's all we've got. Stay in touch and have a great semester. Thanks very much.